In order to be ready for one of the biggest economic catastrophes in history, Bill Gates has been selling his stocks. Gates is well renowned for being a CEO, and he excels at capital expansion. Gates made $50 billion during the past 20 years with the aid of his fund manager, Michael Larson. Gates and Larson were successful in preparing for the dot-com bubble during the 2008 collapse, in addition to making billions during the bull run. Because of this, he has routinely outperformed the S&P 500 and increased his wealth. Currently, Gates and Larson are actively preparing for what will end up being one of the worst recessions in history. Hello, welcome to Stock Market Mate. For today's content, we'll be having a look at why Bill Gates seems to be selling his stocks, and his reasons for doing so. Before we start, if you're new to our channel, make sure to click subscribe and ring that notification bell to get our latest updates and content. Let's begin. The current US economy. It goes without saying that the economy is struggling. The US economy is dealing with historically low consumer confidence, increasing inflation, the Russia-Ukraine war, low consumer savings rates, and record high debt levels. In 2021, the government invests trillions of dollars in the economy. The exact opposite of that will occur in 2022. Gates is particularly concerned about the Fed's self-made artificial trap because the government is removing trillions of dollars from the economy. A two-edged sword is currently striking the economy. Accelerating inflation and the enormous amount of public debt are two sides of the same coin. Now the government must decide between destroying the US dollar and risking bursting the debt bubble by crashing the economy. By choosing to slow down the economy at the risk of an unparalleled collapse, the Fed has chosen to pursue its second option. The Federal Reserve just increased the interest rates by 75 basis points, the most since 1994. This boost significantly slows inflation, but it comes with a high risk. First of all, a substantial increase in rates means that borrowing money for company investments and mortgages will be much more expensive. The 30-year fixed-rate mortgage rates just experienced their biggest weekly spike in 35 years. The current debt bubble could burst, and the economy could enter a recession or depression if these higher interest rates cause the economy to grow too slowly. The bear thesis. In an interview with Bill Gates, "So little things have happened since our last conversation. It seems as though we have entered a new world since Russia invaded Ukraine. For years to come, we'll continue to see rising energy and food prices. It's challenging to imagine how this will solve itself very rapidly. But does that imply for the near future in terms of the economy? Well, it comes on top of the pandemic, where there were already some supply chain issues and extremely high government debt levels. As a result, it's likely to worsen the virtual economy's inflationary issues and push up interest rates, which will eventually cause an economic recession. So I fear that the bears on this issue have a very compelling argument, which worries me much. The bear thesis that Gates is referencing is entirely reasonable. Oil price increases are closely tied to recessions. This graph's gray areas represents time when the US economy was in a recession. You can see how a recession nearly always occurs after Brent crude oil reaches $100 per barrel. Since Brent crude oil is presently trading at around $120 per barrel, a recession is imminent. Because rising oil costs are a tax on consumers, a recession nearly invariably occurs once oil prices break the $100 mark. High petrol prices directly drain the wallets of consumers. In addition to giving the consumer less money to spend, this has a significantly negative impact on consumer sentiment. According to the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, consumer sentiment is at its lowest point since the 2008 financial crisis. The debt levels regularly peak and bottom out due to the cyclical nature of the economy. Gates versus Tesla. Gates and Larson are aware that the year 2021 was marked by a great deal of speculative activity. The exact opposite, a significant economic downturn is on the way. Gates and Larson have been putting several hedging plans into place in case the US stock market crashes. Shorting stocks is one of these tactics. Short positions are not required to be declared to the public in contrast to long ones. We don't know what equities Gates is shorting until the SEC's latest plan, which is intended to remedy this, is approved. Having said that, Elon himself stated that Gates has a short position against Tesla shares. Gates claims to be a major proponent of green technology, but Musk thinks that this is in conflict with his Tesla short position. Musk wrote on Twitter, "I guess I have some trust issues with him too, because Gates still has a multi-billion-dollar short position against Tesla while claiming to help with global warming. Gates' Tesla short position has already cost him over $1 billion, but it is obvious that he has not yet closed out the position." Elon revealed that it was originally $500 million, but since Tesla's value increased significantly, the closing costs are now between $1 billion and $2 billion. Leaked messages reveal that Gates' Tesla short position prevented the two from a meeting, which would have allowed them to discuss philanthropy. Elon wrote back, "Great," after Gates had texted 720 Wednesday to be clear, and added, "Just landed," to which Gates replied, "Cool, do you still hold Tesla short positions worth $500 million? Gates responded, "Sorry to say I haven't closed it out. I do have a short position. I would like to talk about philanthropic possibilities." According to Musk, it is true that these messages were leaked. It is not at all secret that Gates had a short position at Tesla. Although the price of Tesla shares increased significantly in 2021, the growth of NFTs was the pinnacle of the bubble. The Bored Ape Yacht Club. NFTs, such as the Bored Ape Yacht Club, experienced hundreds of percent growth before recently experiencing a loss of more than 80% in just 2 months. Although the Ethereum network has a long-term potential, there is no justification for ape images to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Recently, Gates criticized the Bored Ape Yacht Club for lacking the utility it provides. According to Gates in an interview, "I'm not sure. Obviously costly, digital photos of monkeys will make the world a much better place. And that, my friend, is just amazing. Anyway, I'm used to asset classes, where for example, a farm where they produce something, or a business where they manufacture goods. Have an asset class that is entirely predicated on the idea that someone else will pay more for it than I do. And at its core, it sort of relies on your anonymity to avoid paying taxes or adhering to any kind of government regulations regarding, say, kidnapping costs. I'm not involved in that though. I'm neither tall nor short, anything from that list." The S&P 500 is still over 15% higher than its pre-pandemic peak as of the time we're recording this video. Gates doesn't think that this is the case. Before the pandemic struck, the economy was significantly healthier, the supply side was flourishing, and so was consumer activity. Both consumers and providers are seriously impacted by the pandemic. Economic activity cannot be simply increased to pre-pandemic levels by printing money. The pandemic's economic effects are still being felt today. Gates' take on the pandemic. As Gates discussed, the fear of this disease has completely altered people's behavior in terms of their desire to travel, attend activities, or simply visit a restaurant. Therefore, unless we can assure people that we're closely monitoring the situation and that coming to your job, a car factory, or construction site is safe enough for us to feel certain you can do such things, nobody should believe that the government can wave a magic wand and suddenly the economy is anything like it was before it happened until we get there, which we are most definitely not doing. That is either awaiting a miraculous drug with a cure rate of more than 95% or widespread vaccination. We've experienced both a supply shock and a demand-side shock as a result. Additionally, the fear of infection, as well as the general wealth implications of many people losing their employment and entire industries operating on a much lower level than in a normal economy, are what drives demand. Gates believes that the pandemic is still ongoing in addition to the unstable state of the economy. We're still at risk of this pandemic producing a variety that would be significantly more transmissive and lethal, Gates told Financial Times, adding, "It's not likely. I don't want to sound pessimistic, but the risk of this pandemic is considerably higher than 5%, and we haven't seen the worst of it yet." Larsons Strategy. We must analyze Michael Larson's approach to comprehend why Gates is selling his investments. Larson is the mastermind of the operation. He's an expert at maximizing alpha, also referred to as the risk-adjusted return in the investment world. Despite the market's severe collapse during the 2008 crisis, Gates' net worth only slightly decreased, according to those close to him. Although Larson has kept his investment technique a secret, we know from public documents that he mimics Buffett's approach. Looking at the investments in Gates' portfolio, it is clear that the majority of the businesses would not be affected by changes in the economy. One example of this is Gates' $3 billion investment in waste management stock. No one will cease disposing of their trash because the stock market is down 50%. Diversifying into several asset classes is another aspect of Larson's method. Due to his high alpha and diversity, Gates is the biggest US private owner of farmland. From 1991 to 2018, the average return on farmland was over 11%, with no years experiencing a loss. This is due to the fact that throughout a recession, people would continue to eat. In turn, this makes it possible for farmland to have a high alpha since it offers large returns with little to no risk. Let us know in the comments below if you're selling stocks like Gates. If you enjoyed this video, do give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. That's all for today, and we'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to want to watch one of these two videos right here. Enjoy!